I'm Pete Prodge, this is Blackpool, and it's time for Reheated Pixels. Blackpool, 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 the capital of the People's Republic of Poundland. Yet there is something refined and classy that draws me to it. Yes, connoisseurs of vintage entertainment are best advised to pop over to Lancashire for this. If it can attach to a joypad or a joystick, it's probably here. This is Play Expo's annual jaunt to the Norbreck Castle Hotel. Games old and new can be found here. Sometimes there are some blurring of the lines, like this new game that has a retro feel, and can be controlled by waving your hand about. What is going on here? A man in a tiger onesie is telling us to make a fist in order to make a cat sprite fly faster. I just had to ask him a few questions. Right, with me now we have the creator of Mau Castle, Asobi.tech or Quang?
Asobi.tech's the company, and my name's Quang.
Quang, yes. Yeah. I've heard about this game for quite a while. I've just seen someone play it, and it looks a cross between Space Harrier and Nyan Cat. Is that the ambition?
Yeah, so it's our love letter to Space Harrier and arcades of the 90s. We took everything we love, so Space Harrier, Studio Ghibli, things like the Never-Ending Story. We put all the good stuff we love and we put it into a game.
I see. Are you intending to make loads of millions out of this?
No. This game is our reputation game, so we're going to give it away as cheaply as possible and just build a reputation with it. Maybe our next game is the millions game.
Are you going to have any level creators or anything like that inside the finished game?
So no. And in the game, all the levels are hand designed, and it's very difficult to make a level play well. So a level creator, maybe in the future, if people really want that to happen, we can make it happen, I guess.
How long have you been working on this?
So it's now been 3 years and 3 months. We started as a game jam, and we have day jobs, so we do this in our spare time. It's taking a lot longer than we had anticipated, but we'll get there eventually.
What platforms is it going to come out on?
So we're looking at a PC first on itch.io, and then a mobile, and if it does well enough, we'll look at doing the Switch and other consoles.
ZX Spectrum?
You know what, if it does really, really well, we make millions. I want to port it to all the platforms. ZX Spectrum, Amstrads, Commodores, anything you name it, put it on there.
I'd absolutely love that. Okay, thanks for speaking with us. I'm going to give it a bash myself now. Oh yeah, did I mention that I'm not particularly good at games I've just been introduced to? In order to go at turbo speed, like in Chase HQ, your hand had to form a fist. I'm playing a fisting game here.
Fist the cat.
Fist the cat. I'm not very good at it, but
a giant cat dragon.
This makes absolutely no sense. Say, I've had 2 hours sleep. This doesn't help.
70,000 points.
Thank you. That is something else.
Good job.
Cheers. Thank you. It's all very well having these indie developers showcasing new games with their flashy high-definition graphics, but I've come here for big chunky pixels and joysticks. The free-to-play arcade certainly does not disappoint. Well, it's not the Las Vegas of the UK, but it really is the Blackpool of the UK.
Anyway, I caught up with some retro gaming YouTube type people online and things like that, and I asked them the question, what was the first system that they owned?
The first I had was the ZX81, we got it second hand, and the first game we played was Dodgems, which was basic ASCII graphics, going around a maze, 9 speed levels, really fast, and it was just brilliant. Loved it ever since.
The first system that I owned, because I played on a lot of older consoles around the neighbours' kids' houses, but we didn't actually own one in my house until the Master System 2, yes, the weird bubbly looking one, which had Alex Kidd in Miracle World built in. So that was the first one that we owned, and we played that to death.
It was a Spectrum 48K, it was my brother's, and I would endlessly play Manic Miner and Microbots.
The first arcade game I remember was probably Golf on the arcade, because it kept mocking you whenever you died. Which is,
That's around here, isn't it?
I've not seen Golf here yet. I'm looking for it because you'd hear it because it would be going, too bad, space cadet, very loudly.
So yeah, played on the SNES. We're a single parent household, so I used to play games around at my friends and things because they were rich. I used to just make friends with people that had good consoles. So back in the day, that was my first love. But my favourite's PlayStation 1. And I'm terrible. I'm not a retro gamer at all. I'm very bad.
First system I ever owned was Amstrad CPC 464. My grandparents got it for me when I was about 8.
First system I had was a ZX Spectrum Plus 2 to be exact. I must have been about 5-6 years old, so very young, and it just kind of went from there. The Plus 2A, good old when Alan Sugar got hold of it.
That's my route, but I was about 13 years old at the time.
First system I personally owned was a PC, but the family had like Amstrad CPC, and then like Amstrad PC, like 2086. All that.
I remember those things, yeah. Back when having 2 floppy drives was a luxury.
We had the 2 floppy drive, and I tell you what, it was a luxury. Yeah, and then we had Amiga, so.
The first system I owned was a Nintendo Entertainment System. That was back when I was like really young. I can't even remember getting it. You know, the family might have even had it before I was born. I don't know. So I just remember playing it when I was like really young as a toddler. You know, sometimes getting the little zapper going right up to the screen with it to play Duck Hunt and things like that. So yeah, the NES is my first system.
The first system I had was a ZX Spectrum. Around the time that all my friends actually had a Mega Drive. I was a bit behind on the times there. Yes, yeah. So, I mean, at the time I had dusty cassettes. A lot of them I had to spend a lot of time trying to load, longer than usual. I managed to get one level of Back to the Future before the tape wouldn't load. But I used to play a lot of school days as well. I used to love that. I mean, at the time I didn't really know what I was doing. I just used to muck around. But apart from that, I was also big on the Mega Drive. I had a friend I used to go around there all the time. And I was a big Sonic the Hedgehog nut, massive Sonic the Hedgehog nut. And strangely enough, I used to be a fan of Bubsy the Bobcat. Wow. I know, controversial, yeah.
Nearly every video about this year's Play Expo Blackpool has had the Gaming Muso in it. I'm not going to be any different.
Thank you. Very, very, very kind. And I said hello, Play Expo.
There's a reason to come out in the dark, as one of the side rooms acted as an indoor market for gaming merchandise, much of it retro. Plenty of stalls here from retro gaming specialists. Much of the games were for cartridge-based and disc-based consoles of the 90s and noughties. Now, so-called normal people come to Blackpool to buy Jaeger bombs, strongbow dart fruits and spew on the pavement. Us lot, we're content with this eBay in the flesh, complete with a sexy Vectrex.
Catching up with the online retro gamers, I asked them what was their favourite game of all time.
Easy, Manic Miner. You know this, Proj.
Oh yeah, you're the one who's absolutely mad about Manic. Yeah, I think we've got that. Manic about Manic Miner.
Excuse the silly pun there.
Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening on the Game Boy. It was the first game I ever played that was that had more of like a story and sort of more in-depth things to it. Like, it wasn't just a case of, you're a good guy, there's a bad guy who's just bad, stop him. They had a bit more story to it, and you could like save the progress and go on. So yeah, it just really captured me, so I absolutely adore that game.
It would have to be Final Fantasy VII. I first played that at Christmas of 1997 when it came out. First game I played on the PlayStation, and did kind of take over my teenage years, really. Yeah. It kind of started a whole stream of things for me. Very much the game that has impacted me the most.
Lords of Midnight on the ZX Spectrum. It's just beautiful. It's slow, it's calm, and it's just really, really pretty with the graphics they got. I've just bought the novelisation recently for like £5 from Amazon.
That's one of the games I know of its brilliance, but I can't get into it. So I need someone to sit me down. Someone needs to do a quick start guide.
I'd recommend there's an iPad version done by Chris Wilde, who was at Icemark. It's the same graphics, same gameplay, it's a lot easier to get into. It gives you a map and makes it, a lot tidier. And you get nice save games as well.
What genre? What platform? What decade? Favourite game? Well, that's a difficult question.
Imagine you're stuck on a desert island and you have to play it for the rest of your life. There's no other game you can have. That's a bit sadistic.
That's a horrible question. Whoever is causing this to occur, that's making me only allowed to have one game for the rest of my life, I will find you and I will kill you, or something like that. I don't think that's quite the right quote.
Silent Hill 2. Genuinely, I was in the Trader Zone just now, and there was a Japanese copy there, and the Japanese copy is the only one I don't have. I have several European copies and an American one, but and I was very, very tempted.
Rainbow Islands, I would say. But certainly my favourite game of all time. Or failing that, Final Fantasy VIII.
It would probably be a massive RPG game. It would have to be, because I think Phantasy Star 3, I know everyone says Phantasy Star 4, Phantasy Star 3 has, but it's got multiple endings, multiple routes, and I think that would keep me going for quite a while. Plus, I just love the Phantasy Star games.
My favourite game of all time would have to be Curse of Monkey Island, the third one. Once again, it might be a controversial choice, but I love the animation style for it, the troubleshooting. I just thought it took the idea of Monkey Island to the next level, and the new animation style they used was absolutely amazing.
Probably Dr. Mario, just because of the family connection. Me and my mum played it until like 3 o'clock in the morning once, and I don't think I went to school, so she's a bad parent. But we both got repetitive strain injury from Dr. Mario. And Time Splitters 2 on the PlayStation 2 because of Mum again.
Next up is the Next, as in the Spectrum Next. And that's a non-sexualised Horace. Kiss that, Paul Andrews.
Okay, how far... You've been asked this a million times. How far along are we from the Spectrum Next being a reality?
Very close. We've started mass production and hopefully shipping early next year, hopefully January.
Ah, sweet. So far, what would be your favourite game on it?
probably Baggers in Space.
Naturally, I had to take Baggers in Space for a test drive. It's quite surreal to see a physical Spectrum load up like this.
Okay, so here I am on the Spectrum Next, ready to play Baggers in Space. The very man himself is actually on the camera. Let's see how this goes. Okie doke. So, straight away, this is a ZX Spectrum. It's feeling a bit Commodore 64, a bit Amstrad with the colours. Okay, there's a jetpack vibe going on with this.
Initial looks, and then once you put the ship back together, that's when the similarities stop.
It plays very smoothly.
Pick up the middle piece, that's it, put it on
I never was good at jetpacks.
Yeah, and drop it on the far right, the right piece, take it to the right.
Alright, okay.
And you put your ship back together, put the top piece on.
This is where I get found out for being a crap retro gamer.
And then you have to go down and find the fuel. You can only pick up one fuel at a time, you have to take it back to the ship.
Okay. This bit feels a bit like Starquake. So it's a bit like Rick Dangerous in a way. Unsurprisingly, I'm really rubbish at that. That is literally the first time I've ever played on this game. This is the first time I've touched a ZX Spectrum Next. Let's probably just zooming in on that. This feels like a proper 48K plus 128K Spectrum, really. Which I have one of those in a cupboard somewhere, which is sadly blown up. It's a nice, sexy. I remember seeing this at the Cambridge Centre for Computing History when it was being demonstrated by the late Rick Dickinson, and what I really love is this styling here. That is an epic touch. So, did you write this game yourself?
Yes, me and Mike were together. We made Rusty Pixels, and we made Baggers in Space. We've made quite a few games. Tivarium, Warhawk, and we did the free port of Scramble and what else? Horace World Tour, which is like a Tetris type game with Horace in, and we're working on a few more games for the next as well.
In order to show some proper decent gameplay, the solution was simple. Point my camera at the game's co-author playing it. I'm impressed with the colours and the speed, and I've heard how it's good for beginners to start creating games. My biggest fear is the Spectrum Next ends up like the Sam Coupe. It is a fine looking machine, and hopefully it's made widely available so that non-backers can get hold of it. In recent years, the Spectrum hasn't had a good time of it when it comes to new tribute devices. The handheld thing, the ZX Vega Plus, has caused unhealable rifts in the Spectrum community because it is managed by a load of con artists who ran off with people's money and barely delivered anything. But at least we can see evidence of the Spectrum Next. Here it is actually existing. A fully assembled Spectrum Next is priced at around £250, and in kit form it's around £140, although they're not ready to order. The official website says once the initial Kickstarters are fulfilled, a second Kickstarter campaign needs to take place to produce new ones. there were plenty of them on display. Moving over to a different part of the venue, a look at the retro gaming panel talks on Saturday.
Okay, everybody's got their bingo cards ready. We're going to play your first line. It's £2 a line and £5 for your full house. Oh, sorry, no.
What about the bingo?
Sorry, I'm just so used to doing like gigs in social clubs at weekends. It's just kind of like a second nature. You know what I mean? Hello, my name is James. I'm the Gaming Muso.
Ian Lee, unfortunately, has not been able to make it due to unforeseen circumstances. However, we can still make today rather special. So I would like to introduce to you all Big Boy Barry!
Hello, Big Boy Barry.
There's a bit of a rant I could have about the organiser of these panels. And no, I'm not aiming any anger at Top Hat Gaming Man, who's actually quite insightful and entertaining. I just wondered what went on in the organiser's head to have tweeted out an unworkable ban against a retro gaming YouTuber who wasn't there, didn't want to be there, and has no public identity. All a bit ludicrous. That's probably why that tweet got deleted. Especially considering that it's replay events who have overall say on admittance to Play Expo, and not Retro Unlimited, who just arranged the talks. Anyway, on Sunday, it was the turn of women YouTubers.
And just enjoy playing the matches now. I don't really kind of play that, I kind of sim it. Another one would be Binding of Isaac, Rebirth.
My most recent one being a review of the BBC Bridge Companion, which I think is the worst console of all time, as it cost the equivalent of £600 in today's money and could only play bright yellow silent bridge and nothing else.
YouTubers were everywhere. You couldn't get away from them. Still, the traders offered up good, clean, wholesome... Get the camera off that. Get the camera away. Now these tabletop devices give you the feel of an arcade cabinet in a convenient, compact space. Inside each of them is a Raspberry Pi, preloaded with RetroPie, and thousands of games across many systems. At £549 though, it's a bit outside my budget, but one day I will have one of these. It was on Sunday that I realised I really had to get playing properly on the computers, consoles and arcade cabinets. There are plenty of computer systems, some set up for LAN play. As well as pinball machines and Japanese coin-ops. Having played the popular arcade games on Saturday, I decided to go for fairly obscure and unloved oddities on Sunday. I'm so glad I did, because I discovered Rally X. Yeah, alright, it came out nearly 40 years ago. I'm late to the party, but you two can join me. This thing is a cross between Pac-Man and Spy Hunter. The enemy cars are faster than you, but you can use your fire button to leave smoke screens. Such a simple, fantastic game. I haven't seen this machine since it sat in Gordon Road Chip Shop back in 1986. Some of these arcade obscurities have that Mastertronic budget game feel about them. Courtesy of Asobi.tech, there were plenty of rare consoles. I finally got a chance to try out the Nintendo Virtual Boy. It's like a cross between a 3D Viewmaster and a Game Boy, all viewed through a Quality Street wrapper. Actually, it's pretty good fun, but I can see why it didn't catch on. Then there's one final look at the Spectrum Nexts. Oh wow, there's Horace again, and he's looking damn sexy. Guys, can we cut to a pre-record?
And my final question to the retro gaming people, what is your biggest gaming disappointment?
Renegade 3, let's go with that. That's what springs to mind. I'm sure there's far worse, but I'll go with Renegade 3.
Completely agreed. Renegade 3 is dog's eggs. And that's swearing.
I've certainly a lot of Spectrum games I've loaded thought these are just awful after spending a fortune on them. Some of them they just look great, and they are. I'm thinking now about you on the spot. Sorry.
I stay away from a lot of games that people really like because I'm not into the same things, but Red Dead Redemption 2 was a little disappointing for me, just because of the multiplayer. I wanted to still do solo within the multiplayer, but you have to have at least the right amount of people to play it. So that was a big disappointment. But other than that, I've been happy with pretty much everything. I'm a very easygoing person gaming-wise. Nobody laugh, it's true.
Well, that one would probably have to be, I suppose, a little more recent. That'd be when the 6th generation of Pokemon games came out, so X and Y on the 3DS, because they just felt really bare bones. Yeah, they looked nice and had great graphics, but there wasn't really much there outside of the basics, and not many new Pokemon. So yeah, I just found them kind of disappointing. So that'd probably be my biggest disappointment.
I started playing. This is not so retro, but I used to start playing PC games. And I used to love playing Jedi Knight Dark Forces 2, which was actually the second of the Dark Forces series. Then they did the Jedi Knight 2 afterwards. And although it got rave reviews, and it's also out on the Switch now, I believe, I was just never a fan of it. It seemed to have just taken the feel that they had from the original games and just made it more of a Quake Arena style in my perspective.
Possibly the fact that there was no sequel to Knights, and that Knights didn't become a running franchise. I thought that game could have been an incredible new mascot for Sega, and I was really, really sad that they never really made any more games. So I think that's probably quite high up there for things that I thought were quite sad.
I don't know, really. That's a really tricky one. I mean, there's certain games that I've got in the past, things like LA Noire or...
You could have the ZX Vader theory.
Yeah, I mean, there is that one. The whole crap that happened with that is certainly one that when certain companies disappoint you from the way they act, there's that sort of thing. Those perhaps are more general things rather than any specific game. And so, yeah, that's perhaps what I'd say.
My biggest disappointment in gaming would be gamers.
Yeah, I hate the f***ers. Would not be in an exhibition of loads of gamers, hundreds of thousands of them, no.
A lot of them. Gamers are the worst.
Generally, not to be cruel, but I think the biggest gaming disappointment is when you go back and replay some of your old favourites and you realise that they were fine for the time, but unfortunately my time has moved on, and so have you.
That is a very harsh reality. You've made us all feel like shit there. I think that's a wonderful way to actually end the video, really. But thank you, Jake.
You're very welcome.
I now want to leave here and just actually walk out into Well, I'm not sure about Blackpool, but we'll see how it goes. Thank you so much for that.
Well, I've had a great time at Play Expo. Now I'm waiting for a tram to take me 200 miles back down south. And remember, there's always plenty of fun to be had here on the Reheated Pixels channel, filled with retro gaming programs.